I need to replay a series of events for our dear listeners. You ready for this, Paul?
Sure.
Yesterday, Paul and I were talking. Podcast ends. He goes, "Yep, I'm going to head to the airport. I'm going to Mexico City. We're going to fly down there today."
Yep.
Put that in the front of your mind. A few hours later, I read a tweet from the Associated Press. It says, a Pennsylvania man admitted to packing explosive materials, fuses, and lighters in a suitcase as he checked in for a commercial flight and leaving from the Lehigh Valley Airport, which, for those who aren't familiar, Paul, how close is the Lehigh Valley Airport to your house?
I just have one correction before I answer that question. It's the Lehigh Valley International Airport.
Oh, sorry.
I believe they have one flight to Canada. It's a small airport. It is the closest airport to our house. It is a 20-minute drive, and it's only that long because the highway actually goes there, goes around a loop, and then comes back up. So, I mean, honestly, as the crow flies, it's probably 12 minutes away. I don't know.
I was ready to
15.
go get the bail money that we keep stashing
So that,
away.
well, by the way, so that story was actually a little distressing to me because that is our local airport, and that's the airport my daughter flies in and out of all the time. And did some crazy guy just think maybe I could go to a local regional airport and get away with something stupid? Probably, right? Yeah.
But you're in Mexico now, which is why you've changed your background from light yellow to white.
I know. Someday we'll decorate this place, I promise. Yeah, we're going in really late. We usually try to make the morning flight. And we took it was, not only was it a late, it was like a 5:00 flight, but it was also like 5.5 hours. It's usually like 4.5 to 5 maybe.
Wow.
And often we get in early and and then there was like a huge line at passport control, which we've never seen. We've always blown through there. And this time we had to do we had to inform them we had visas and make sure that it was stamped correctly because otherwise we'd have to go home and do it all again. Anyway, it worked out, but it took a long time. We had dinner at it was almost midnight.
Wow.
Yeah.
You could have taken that midnight train anywhere.
This is the city that never sleeps. Let me tell you, I like the place we go, but I wouldn't want to live next to it. It is loud. It is loud. It was, well, at midnight. It's midnight on a Thursday. This is not a weekend night, Brad.
I guess you're in college if Thursday night was always a big night because whatever.
Yeah,
Anyways,
sure.
there was some big news coming out of Reuters, who has been actually leaking a lot of the sort of EU investigation stuff, and they're coming out and saying the EU is just they're gonna sign off. They're gonna let Microsoft do this. It's gonna go through.
Yeah. I went on, not a rant, but I made this point on Windows Weekly where I was like, I'm tired of all the naysaying nonsense. Like, every time there's a little bit of bad news, I'll hear from multiple people who say, "Oh, it's over now, right? Like, this is the end of it." And I'm like, guys, unless Microsoft walks away from this thing, which, by the way, you can almost imagine based on just the sheer amount of frustration this must involve, there's no way they don't get Activision Blizzard. And more to the point, there is no rational reason for that anyone could give that makes sense for you to say no, they should not have this company. And everyone likes to quibble over specifics, Microsoft will cite certain figures and then well, according to this thing, blah, 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 their market share is actually a little higher, and it's like, yeah, it doesn't matter what the numbers are. It doesn't matter if they're third or fifth or sixth in the industry. What matters is that when this is over, they're still going to be in that same place. And what matters is that Sony has been behaving in what I would describe as an anti-competitive fashion this entire time and is afraid only that Microsoft will do the same thing to it, even though there is no evidence of it ever wanting to do anything like that. And yes, I know every once in a while there's a little exclusive out there, relax. Compared to Sony, Microsoft doesn't do a lot of that stuff. And it just doesn't make sense. I literally hear from people who run out of ideas and they're just like, I just don't want them to have it. Like, okay, but that's really not how the world works. I'm sorry. I guess we all wish things were the way they were, but the truth is markets consolidate and this is unfortunately a natural process. So you have to look at the history of these things and say, well, who would you like to have in charge of this company? And honestly, I feel like Microsoft has a proven history of being a good curator. No, not curator, a good benefactor.
Lately, I should say under Satya, they've done pretty well with their bigger acquisitions. They've had some weird ones in the past, but
Yeah, but you know what? That's how we have to judge this company.
Mm-hmm.
I always use this exaggerated example, but it's like complaining about Germany because of World War II. Do you think it's a slightly different country today? I mean, think about it. It's Mike. Listen, I spent my entire life covering this company. The most deeply troubled part of my professional life was the antitrust trial in the United States and all of the evidence that came out of that, the Bill Gates deposition. What is happening out there? You hear this?
Mm-hmm.
It's like some kind of a traffic thing. Um, I felt very strongly that this company should have been split at the seams and separated into three different companies, and never the twain shall meet. It was a terrible company. But listen, they're not perfect, and they certainly had problems. They've had the kind of residual effect of people like Alex Kipman and stuff like that. I don't want to overlook that. I don't mean it like that, but in the scope of big tech, line all those people up, I would pick Microsoft over any of them by a wide margin. It's not even close.
Yeah, well, now we see what happens. Obviously, the EU isn't done until they've officially signed it and moved on. But I think there's good reason to believe it is going to go in the right direction. So now all eyes really just turn to the U.S. and see how they're going to...
And the UK, by the way.
Do you think they care about the UK, though? If the EU and the US and China, for that matter, I believe have already said they're going to approve it or expected to approve it, do you think Microsoft would be like, darn, the UK won't do it. I guess we're not doing this. Like, they would just blow through that.
Well, okay. I don't know how that works. I mean, are you suggesting they stop selling products in the UK because of this? I mean, would they be willing to do it? Listen, for so many reasons, Brexit was the stupidest idea in the history of stupid ideas. But, it'd be like Rhode Island ceding from the United States and being like, we still matter.
No, that's what I mean.
I know that. I know. The interesting thing about the UK in this regard is that they have suggested some pretty aggressive remedies. I think the FTC case is facile. I think it's pointless. I think it's incredible. It reads like something that was copy and pasted from Sony's playbook. It's not going to withstand a legal battle. I mean, there's no doubt about that. They picked the wrong thing to take a stand on. It was just stupid. The UK is an interesting outlier. I don't know. But yes, I do think the EU approving it, should that happen, is a lot of momentum for Microsoft and something they can point to and say, see, like, why this was good enough for them. Why isn't it good for you?
And I don't forget, too, that it came out that the US was trying to work with the EU to sort of scuttlebutt this thing, and the EU was like, sure, we don't really care about you guys.
Yeah, it's okay. Right. And again, this sounds xenophobic to me, even as I say it. I don't mean it that way, but I don't understand, and I've said this before, this notion of regulators from certain jurisdictions protecting a dominant Japanese company that has frankly been behaving poorly for years and years. I don't understand what is it you're protecting. There's no competitive harm here, and there's certainly no harm to consumers. So whatever your concerns are, what are your concerns? What I don't understand protecting Sony. It just doesn't make sense. So, anyway, that's where I'm at.
Yep. So that will continue to move forward. There's a new beta of Windows. Oh, so there was a big update yesterday in the Windows beta world or dev channel world because they're now shipping the file explorer that's built on the WinApp SDK. So,
and I think you can toggle it, right? Isn't there
you get a pizza icon because it's a pizza party.
It's a slice of something.
So I have it on my machine upstairs. I got to take it.
Yeah.
So far, I mean, it's like...
Well, by the way, if this is like what I said about Windows on ARM. If this works correctly, you won't even notice a thing. Right. It's there for the back end stuff, in this case, that Microsoft wants to do in the future, right? And you talked about this the other day. The thing that they did down in the tray is a similar push. Windows 11 stuff like this. There are things where I can say Microsoft made some tough decisions, and finally made a break with the past, which is something we've complained they've not done in the past. And they broke things, and there were regressions. There were features that were missing. I think they answered the most pertinent one to the taskbar. The right-click task manager thing.
Mm-hmm.
With Brooks Amir stuff and some other third-party utilities and all that. And I think, you guys will get a handle on that, obviously.
Oh yeah, it's all fixed now. That's
So,
all fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. There are a lot of examples of this in history. When Mac OS 10 first came out, and there was a lot of hardware accelerated graphics. It was incredible looking. There was translucency and stuff. Microsoft looked stupid. They had bitmap graphics of very small sizes in Windows XP. It looked silly by comparison. And years and years went by. They did everything they could to finally catch up, and they released Vista, and everyone was like, "What the hell is this thing? It doesn't run on my hardware." And it's like, guys, you told us you wanted this. This is literally delivering on what you said you wanted. So this is what we're like, I guess, as people, in the community. But it's the two sides of a coin thing. I sort of respect them taking a stance finally on obsoleting out-of-date technology. But there's a part of me that says, well, yeah, but you should also bring forward you should do it in a way that brings forward all of the functionality, where it makes sense, right? I mean, don't just bring forward because it's there. I mean, bring it forward because it makes sense. Anyhow, yeah. This is it's interesting watching this kind of change occur, because so far I would say Windows 11 has been I don't know, surface level stuff for the most part. I mean, but making UI is always surface level, but I mean, they're making deep technical changes to the way the UI is constructed and modernizing it. And honestly, I think we should celebrate that in some ways.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. It is what it is. So how long are you in Mexico now?
3 weeks.
Ooh.
Yeah, we're going to meet a guy today. We're going to meet a guy.
I was going to say, that sounds
part of my bomb
normal.
plot. Who's going to get us into the immigration stuff next Tuesday, I think, so we can finalize our, what is it called, temporary residency.
Gotcha.
That's a big deal.
It is a big deal. Well, we wish you luck.
Thank you, sir.
And we'll catch you on Monday unless that guy turns out shady.
Right.
I'm sure it's
There'll be another Pennsylvania man headline.